I'll edit out whatever.
By the way, what technology do you use? Like what app do you use? Because I've thought about doing a podcast as well.
Yeah, I'm using Anchor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I haven't tried their desktop app.
dude, it's free, and you can put it up as long as you want. Like I've had podcasts. I had one that was almost 2 hours,
Wow.
and most of them are. Most of them are like 40 minutes, an hour, something like that. But it was yeah, it was a friend of mine out of LA, and we talked for about 2 hours, and it put up on Anchor, no issues, let me go. And I know some other friends who are using Stitch or something like that. I'm
Hmm.
not sure what it is, but he was telling me he's limited to 40 minutes, and then after that he gets charged for it. So anything over 40
Oh,
minutes he starts getting charged for it, and I don't understand the point. Supposedly they think it's better for whatever reason. I don't know why. Maybe it distributes it to more places or something, but
sure, sure.
I mean, pretty much Anchor will distribute it to,
Like Spotify, Apple,
yeah,
I think,
yeah,
right?
pretty much
Yeah.
anywhere you want, even Google Podcasts or Google whatever the hell it is now. I don't know. I don't ever listen to Google whatever, so I'm always on either Spotify or the Apple Podcast. So
Yeah. Well, I'll let you start. I'm sure you have a routine, and I definitely have some questions for you too, because I'm curious about how you've been and all that.
yeah, whatever. I mean, this is pretty much free flowing for me. So
Cool.
I mean, there's really not any major questions. I mean, so pretty much I start out with everybody. I can start with you. Is how did you get started? How'd you end up a producer? How'd you end up at Martin? You know, what led you to all that? Because I'm sure it's not one of those things where you, as a kid, you're like, oh, I want to be a producer. And,
I did want to be an advertising though.
did you?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you shoot. So did you want to
Yes.
be in advertising as a photographer or just in advertising? And then the photography was just something that helps, you do on the side, or it worked out, or how'd that all work?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely the latter, like I don't, I don't think anybody, well, I don't know many people that, grow up and they're like, oh man, I can't wait to be a producer and talk and worry about schedules and budgets and chase people down, trying to make things happen and have people yell at you. I'm just kidding. They only yell at you sometimes. Um, but funny enough, I mean, I was always creative, right? So I think when you work in advertising or photography, you just have a creative brain and, you like storytelling. And um, I watched, and I really like movies. So I watched What Women Want with Mel Gibson,
Yes, I remember that.
and I loved the pitch for the Nike women's running ad. I loved it. I thought the pitch was fantastic. And I thought, how cool is it and I always like watching ads, period. I was one of those kids, like
Yeah.
my dad. I don't know if you do that with your kids, but I definitely love watching ads with my dad. And like we would always share ideas like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to do that? Wouldn't it be cool to do
No,
that?
I just ruin movies for my children.
Why?
Because I sit there and I'll say, you see that? You see how the lighting's completely screwed on that thing and it shouldn't be that way? Or they were watching that Netflix show, or I think it's Netflix, Outer Banks. Have you seen it or heard
Oh
about it?
God, I've heard about it. It sounds,
So my
I
daughters are
like try
watching
to
it.
watch it.
My wife and I started watching it. We're 3 episodes in because the girls were like, you need to watch it. You need to watch it. There's literally a scene where the sun is setting
Hmm.
and they're talking, like two people are talking and the sun is setting. They do a cut to one of the people, the exact same scene, the exact 2 seconds later, all of a sudden it is noon. I mean, the lighting's completely changed. And so that's the kind of crap I do, to the point where my daughters and my wife, they've finally gotten used to it. But for a while, they're like, you suck. I hate watching movies with you.
Yeah.
So you and your
I
dad
kind
used
of do
to,
the same thing though,
yeah.
like every time I watch a movie, so a little background, I worked at LA Center Studios when I lived in LA for um, I think a year. But LA Center Studios, the building itself is used in a lot of movies, like from Batman Begins to many commercials to one of the oh my God, what's that movie with uh, not Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious, one of
Oh,
the
yeah,
Fast and
yeah.
Furious movies. So every time I see it, I'm always like, that's LA Center Studios. And, my boyfriend at the time was like, yeah, yeah, I know. I'm aware. You've done this enough times. I already know what the building looks like, and I've never been there. So,
Oh,
um, yeah. So, anyways, I would watch commercials with my dad, and then so when I watched this movie and I saw like how it actually came to life, I was like, I want to do that. I want to be in advertising. I want to sell a thought, an idea. I want to make people feel things or inspire them. And then it becomes a whole other ball game, I would say, when you actually get involved, right? Like
yeah.
you dreamt of being a photographer, and then like you become a photographer, and it's just bigger than what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Nobody tells you about all the little things on the side you have to do.
Oh, yeah, it's a whole different. And I'm sure you, and I know you can speak to this, is like when you go from doing it as a hobby to a profession,
Hmm.
completely different ball game, completely different way of life, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, completely. Because when you're just a hobby, you can do what you want. You don't think about it, and you just if you want to shoot, you shoot. You're not worried about your income. What everybody else is going to think about that shot. What all those little things. So yeah, it's completely different.
How do you stay passionate? I want to know that. How do you stay passionate and not like, because for a lot of people, it's the art form, and they're like, well, if I'm stressed out about the art form, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So, how do you stay passionate about it?
For me, it's really just probably more than anything else. It's looking at other photographers and watching movies.
Yeah.
Those two things I think push me, and then traveling. So if
Hmm.
I travel someplace, a lot of times that'll push me and get me those creative juices kind of flowing and make me, even if I only have my iPhone on me, because I was in Memphis 3 weeks ago and I was
Hmm.
there just shooting some stuff. I really, whatever, I'm going
Hmm.
to go do my best at it, but you're not going to see it on my website, that
Right.
kind of thing.
Right.
And I just went and had dinner. After dinner, I went and walked around downtown Memphis on Beale Street, and the sun was setting. It was coming down like over these cool neon signs, and I just like that was cool. So I picked up my phone, and all of a sudden, it just started popping off some pictures,
Yeah.
to see what I could get. So those little things. But there are times where I get, say, if I'm doing ecom, and you do
Hmm.
ecom for 3 weeks straight or something like that. I don't want to see a camera. I don't want to, I don't want to pick it up. I don't want to be around it. I want to see it. I just need some time away from it. But then I come back to it and start, going for it. So
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get it. You're like, I don't want to look at Photoshop no
yes,
more.
yeah, yeah. That's one of those things where for me it's even like on the motion end. I like shooting it, but I'm not a big fan of editing.
Yeah.
I'd rather give it to somebody. I have a friend who's great at editing, so I'll give it to him and just, I'd rather let him edit it and I'll tweak it afterwards, kind
Well,
of a
it's great
thing.
that you have a partner in crime for that.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, because like after I shoot, like say even something for myself, 9 times out of 10, I don't want to edit or
Yeah,
I just take like days to not edit because I want it to be fresh and exciting in my brain when I
yeah.
look at the photos again. But that's just me. So
No, I'm the same way. If I shoot, especially if it's a shoot that's taken me hours and hours or
yeah,
half a day or whatever or more, I'll come home, download it all off of the hard drives onto my desktop, backups, all that stuff, and then I'll just walk out. I won't look at it, and I'll wait till the next day. I'll go
no,
through it. I'll either make my initial selects of what I like, and then I leave it alone, come back to it the next day, and then start getting into it a little more day
yeah,
2, day 3, that kind of thing.
yeah,
I think it's
that's
just,
cool.
and I've noticed that a lot of times my initial reaction on that's the best shot usually stays
Right.
correct. But there are definitely times where I go back and look and go, why did I select that one and not select this one over here? At
Oh
least according
yeah.
to that group of selections. Yeah.
That still happens today for me when I go back into my shots from like years ago,
Oh, yeah.
to the photos that I never edited, and I'm like, why did I overlook this shot? It was great. It's totally usable.
Yeah.
But then, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just the way, and it's nice to have, like, now, more recently, I've gotten some friends who are like photo consultants and that kind of thing, and reps that will help me look at them and go
Yeah.
through them. And because a lot of times, you get those where I remember I had a shoot I thought it was great. It was amazing because I put all this effort into getting the location,
Uh-huh.
because it was a location that everybody just couldn't get. So I put all this effort into getting the location. It was cool. The clothes were cool. And I showed it to some friends who were art buyers in New York, and they went, "Don't show this to anybody ever."
It's a good thing they're still your friends.
Yeah, and I was like, "Why?" And it's like, "Because this model's terrible."
Oh
I
no.
was like,
And you know what?
"Really?" I was like, "I thought these were great. I loved all it." And once they said it, and I went back and looked at it, they were completely right.
Yeah.
You know, and it was nice to have another set of eyes look at it.
There's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than the feeling of of the model being wrong for a shoot.
Yes.
You put so much effort into everything, especially if you're doing it yourself on a budget, because it's a passion project and you want to push it through and you have this idea that you want to come to life, and then you get them in front of the camera and the magic doesn't click. You just know that
Yeah.
energy is just not there.
What do you do when that happens for you? What do you do?
I have to work harder. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure that you do the same thing, but like I already engage the model as it is. I like to meet models in advance and have a rapport with them and know that I can get along.
Yeah.
But when you get a person in front of the camera, even if they say they hire you for this, right? Like they're 9 times out of 10, the person is not comfortable being in front of the camera. So you have to like talk them through it and just have a conversation like you and I are right now, right? Just
Yeah.
talk about bullshit and be like,
Right.
so, and then hopefully they're an easy conversationalist and just can snap out of it. But I've definitely have had a number of people that just can't snap out of it because all they can see is the camera and the reflection in the lens.
Yeah.
There's some people that like love their reflection in the lens and they get really comfortable with it because it's like looking in the mirror.
Oh yeah.
But then there's some people that you can absolutely tell are insecure about it, about themselves and how they look, and then they see themselves and they freak out. It's
Mm-hmm.
intimidating, especially with a DSLR.
Oh yeah.
you know
Absolutely. I had years ago I used to do model testing. And
oh, okay.
that's how I first got started. So I went from I started shooting weddings at 16 and did all that.
We
And
all
then
did. We all
yeah,
did.
had no desire, man, none to go back to that. But I had a girlfriend taught me into shooting for a modeling agency that she used to be with. And then that led into doing these model tests like all over the country, because there were these at the time, I don't know if there still are, but there were these big modeling conventions that all these kids would go to. So they needed pictures. So I would travel around the country and you'd get these kids. I remember there were a couple of times where like, "So have you done this before?" "No, I hate having my picture taken." And I would just go, this is all about modeling and acting. What the hell do you think I mean, I didn't make any sense
it,
to me.
for
And
them, it's fame and money. That's all it is.
yeah, I guess, because it was painful. I mean, it was telling them every single move to make, having to shoot. Thank God, when digital came around,
Oh my
because
God.
at least I
Yeah.
could just keep shooting. Where when I first started, I was shooting chrome, and dude, it was like 20. I was giving 3 rolls, 24 shots each out of a 36. Each roll is 36. So I was splitting up 2 rolls, but you knew you had 24 shots to get at least 1 to 2 that were usable. And
But you know
sometimes it was
what?
possible.
Sometimes, but okay, so here's what's funny about it to me is that like, when the transition from film to digital happened and everyone started renegotiating the prices.
Yes. Yes. Yes, I did.
Begrudgingly,
Yes.
yes. um and people still to this, I feel like some people, I mean, sometimes I've heard some prices where people, I'm like, wow, that's a little bit insane. But the amount of like to reinforce what you and I have been talking about like for the last few minutes, there's so much work that goes into it. We're not just showing up and shooting. We have to worry about the whole ambiance on top of like how many times have you gotten into the pose that you wanted the model to make and you're like, see, I want you to pose like this.
Right.
But there's nobody else. There's
Yes.
nobody there to capture that moment where you're just like standing like a model, you know, with your forearm over your forehead or something, you know, looking all dainty like. But
Have you ever
those
done that
moments
and then the
definitely
model does
happen
it and you go, yeah, okay, that was not
all the
good.
time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, lots of times. I'm like, and then I think to myself, do I look that ridiculous, or are they just really terrible at mimicking me?
See, that's good because my first thought is, wow, that did not look anything like I thought it would. So I guess I showed them something really bad.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think some people are just really bad learners. It's because modeling is acting essentially, right?
Yeah.
Without a script. Um, anyways, wow, that was a huge roundabout way
Yeah.
of saying I ended up in advertising by chance actually. I started in I started in the digital bubble. So I started making as a media buyer, and slowly it snowballed into working at Fox. And there I started my production lifetime, where I was in charge of helping sell through and build the digital executions for the TV shows, the TV show sponsorships. Like, for example, with 24, while it was on air, they had three main sponsors. One of them was Cisco Tech. The other was Sprint, and the third one totally I don't remember. But like if there was a sweepstakes, say for like, you know, a new cell phone or something like
Yeah.
that, I would be the person that works with the account team and the client to make this like one of this custom made like website for the sweepstakes and manage it from end to end, from design to fulfillment,
Oh, wow.
of making sure that in some cases, to make sure that like the winner gets their prize. So it was a lot. I was
Yeah.
25. I was really young, but I was only on Fox.com for like a hot minute, and I switched over to FX Networks and started managing that completely. So that was a lot
So you
at a
went from
young
Fox
age.
working with people going to FX and took on the whole thing by yourself?
No, obviously there was like a whole slew of people, but like for the thing that I was in charge of, yes, I was the only
Right.
one, and
Yeah.
obviously I had, you know, teams that I would work with, but I really enjoyed it. And my title at the time was ad product, but I remember I had a boss that was like, well, basically this is like interactive production, and I was like, yeah, you're totally right. Like I'm building things and working with all these different teams to make it happen. And then I had a quarter life crisis because I was married to my job. I grew up really fast. So I left advertising for a bit, tried to do the photography thing full time. That was not successful because
Were you living in LA this whole time?
I was living in LA, and then I went to New York, and I traveled around a lot, blah, 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 blah. I traveled around a lot. And I met with the magazines in New York, and it was one of those like conferences or fairs where you pay
Oh, yeah.
like $1,000 and you meet with select magazines. So I met with Marie Claire and People and a bunch of like cool like all the well-known magazines that you see on
Yeah.
the daily. And I met with the art producers, and I met with some editors. And I remember them telling me that your work is, some people told me my work was too fine art for travel, because I didn't do the quintessential bullshit that you see on, you know, Instagram now, right? Where the girl
Yeah.
with the hat and she's like, oh, I'm walking and you caught me midair. You know, none of that nonsense. I didn't do that. I just liked beautiful landscapes, and
Right.
I was really good with lighting. I'm still good with lighting, but um And then when I met with people, or Marie Claire, I forgot which one. I met with both of them, but one of them said, your work is beautiful. I love your portraits, but you don't have any A-list celebrities in your portfolio. There's no way for me to pitch you to my art director.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, I was just devastated.
Well, yeah, because how are you supposed to get the A-list people if you can't shoot for somebody like People Magazine to get to the A-list?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can become friends with him if I party hard enough and,
I guess, yeah.
do enough cocaine, and then that'll be it, and I'll be
Terry
set for
Richardson,
life.
just do his deal. Yeah.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
Jackass.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that, I still shoot, but I kind of left my dreams behind on that, because I was just like, there's a whole circuit, there's a whole relationship market in that I don't have enough money or time in my brain, in my journey, in my life journey, that I wanted to pursue. And I actually missed the business side of creativity, where advertising really fills that gap for me. So I went back into advertising. Actually, well, first I moved to Detroit, and lived there for a bit. And then
okay, what made you move to Detroit?
My sister.
Okay.
My sister lives out there, and I wasn't going to move to New York because it's too expensive.
Yeah.
Got tired of LA and that whole thing, that whole scene. And so, she lived there, and I was like, well, Detroit's cool. It's coming back, and I want to try it out. And Detroit still to this day is one of my favorite places in America. So
wow. Yeah, I've never been to Detroit.
Oh, it's so cool. They're doing so many great city development, urban development things.
Yeah, I've heard they're
highly
trying
suggest it.
to get it back up and going.
Oh, it's back up.
Oh,
There's
yeah?
like
Oh, that's
luxury
cool.
hotels and
Oh, wow.
yeah, like really great shopping experiences. And they are building out a lot of outdoor parks that stretch for miles,
Oh,
that are
that's
completely
cool.
connected. Yeah. They have their own Belle Isle, just like we do.
Yeah.
Except it's its own actual little island. It's like you have to cross the bridge, and it's gigantic. I mean, I don't know comparatively what it is size-wise to like Central Park, but it's like the Central Park, I would say.
Oh, wow.
Before Central Park got a lot of money dumped into it.
Yeah.
So, but it's really cool. I love it there. And then the opportunity so my friend Kim, who I work with now, she was like, hey, we had somebody go on maternity leave. We have a project for Land O'Lakes. Would you be interested in, producing this for a couple months? It was just some digital banners. And I was like, of course. Yeah, definitely. And at that point, I've been trying to I started looking into getting back into advertising. And so I did that. And a year later, not even a year later, I would say 6 months later, she was like, hey, we have this project coming out for our website, and would you be interested in taking it on, or would you move down here if we were to offer you a job? And I was like, yeah, definitely. So I came down, interviewed, did the whole thing, got it, went on the project. And then I moved here in May of 2018.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You haven't been in Richmond that long then.
No, fresh meat.
Yeah. Well, all right. God, so what? When I met you, you must have just started.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
It's been very interesting. I've definitely learned a few things
Oh, I'm
about,
sure.
well, I mean, just even from the perspective of like a photographer, how photographers are chosen a little bit, because I work with the art producers from time to time, but and supplement them when they need an additional body. But you'd be surprised how, I mean, it is really luck of the draw and really putting yourself out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
Um,
I've had well, I was just talking to a guy yesterday who I'm going to talk to for the podcast in a couple of days, and he shoots and he was talking about how he went into an interview one time, and I've had it happen to me. Actually, I was telling him about me as I got a call from a client. They're like, "Hey, we want you to estimate this job," and they knew they weren't going to use me for like 3 years in a row. They knew they weren't going to use me. They just need another bid. And then
Huh.
finally, year four, I was like, I'm not doing it, man. I'm
Yeah.
not doing this again because I know how this is going to end up, and I'm not going to spend my time putting all this stuff together. And they swore that this time would be different. They wanted to use me, so I went in, just changed the date on everything, and just sent it in. I didn't even spend it, and I ended up getting it.
Oh,
But it's one of those things where there's so many jobs like that where you are just that second or third bid where they know they're going to use somebody else, or you don't know the right person, you're not friends with the right people,
yeah.
to get that gig. So it's a lot of work, but
Well, I mean, so let me give you an example. I can't mention the client, but prospective client A, newly signed on. We're pitching them on this brand new kind of creative direction, and need to find, the CD and the AD have this vision of like what it should look like. So they send us a deck, a brief, and with descriptors and images that they pulled off of, I don't know where, Pinterest, what have you, right?
yeah,
Behance. And legitimately, so as the art producers, we're like asking them, they're like, okay, so you like these images, where did you find them? Let's start there. Are these images, half the time actually, we're looking, and I don't think a lot of like, I don't know how many novice photographers ever really understand how important it is that if you have a model, to get a model release,
yeah,
because a lot of them end up using their friends, and then it's just like, let's just go out, shoot, and have fun. But there's so many photographers that we've reached out to in the past for this specific project, and to their representatives. Some of them weren't even reps, like some guy, like one of them was like some guy in Bosnia or whatever, that we didn't even have more than maybe 4 pictures on his Behance for his portfolio, barely any contact information. But we love this one image, and we're like, we wondered if we could buy the rights to it, at least to use for a few months.
right,
And that's how freaking lucky it was, right? I mean, we didn't end up using him because I don't know if we even got in touch with him, or that the client agreed to that specific image, but we had to explore our options. But imagine if the client was like, so, the client wanted to go to market immediately. So that's why we were thinking of using just an already made image and just buying the rights to it for licensing. And I can only imagine being this like photographer for fun, because it's your passion, and you throw it up on Behance because you're going to send it, somebody's cousin's one day going to ask you like what your portfolio looks like, and you're like, oh, check out my Behance. But like some major like ad agency in America finds your portfolio, finds this one image for this one global client that they want to use and license for like 4 or 5 months. And and it's just in store. It's not like global advertising, but who knows where that could
right,
lead, right? If you're already shooting that style and that's the style we want to use, we could potentially hire you to keep shooting in that style because you've already done it. And like, imagine not having a model release, or
yeah,
not knowing that person anymore, or not being on good terms with that person anymore. Or that person is like, hey, I want to cut out the profits. I want 50% because I'm in the photo. And
right,
you're like, there's so many missed opportunities, I think, that people don't really think through when they're an artist, of like getting your ducks in a row and making sure that you're prepared. And I think that's, that is what they mean by luck, with the
yeah,
opportunity and preparation meeting at the same time.
yeah. I had a shoot years and years and years ago, and I got a release from the model, and it was literally for something like an agency directory or something. They used it on the back cover. This guy called me and asked me if he could use it on the back cover, and we worked out a price or whatever. The agency saw it that she was represented by, and then called me and wanted to sue me for whatever. And I was like, I have a release. And like, oh, she didn't know what she was doing.
But it doesn't matter.
I was like, yeah. So then they had their lawyer send me an email or send me a letter after I'd already talked with the guy. And I was like, he said, well, she may have, but she didn't know what she was doing. So I just forwarded that email to the lawyers and never heard from the lawyers again. You know, that's why she signed the release, and your guy admitted that, you know, she signed it.
Yeah.
So, but you never know. I mean, I was talking to Frank Maddox, who's the, what is he? He's the creative, I can't remember what his exact title is, but he's at Warner Records, and he did all the Linkin Park album covers. Deftones. He said they were presenting a thing for Deftones for an album cover, and he found this cool shot this dude did of an owl, and he was just using it as like, hey, here's kind of an idea. He said the band saw it and was like, that's it. We want that. We don't need to shoot anything. That's the shot we want. He said, I didn't. Wow. He said, I freaked out because I didn't have a release for this. I was just pulled it off the internet just as a placeholder. And he said, next thing I know, luckily the photographer was like, yeah, and he worked with us and gave it to us. But, you know, without having a release, you can get in trouble sometimes and end up having to, like, he was lucky. The photographer was fine with it, you know, even though he thought he was using it as a placeholder. But yeah, I could easily see you going something like you're talking about. You guys want to use it for something big, and then the model's like, no, I don't want to be on that. Or, you know, I want 75% or 50% of whatever.
Something crazy. Yeah. They hold it up for ransom, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you, I'm going to pronounce it the French way, but you know that, that Kiss by Robert Doisneau. It's like it's a black and white blurry photo of a couple kissing in a cafe.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. They're standing, and I think the Eiffel Tower's in the back. I'm not sure. But the story with that photo is that there was a couple that tried to sue the Robert Doisneau, saying that they are the couple in that photo, and that he took it and, like, you know, ran with it illegally. And he's like, well, that's impossible because that is a model. Those are two models that I hired for the photo shoot. So that died there. But it's just so funny because you couldn't see their photo, like, you couldn't see their faces, and it's blurry.
Something like that, though, if it's something that's shot and anybody walking by, like it's out on the street or whatever, and you're walking by and you shoot it.
Yeah.
Can you really sue for that? Or is it because, I guess, maybe because he was making money off of it? You're allowed, maybe you can sue? Or I don't really know the logistics of that, the legal part of that.
I don't either. I'm sure it's, I feel like there's a lot of gray area, right? Because public domain is public domain. But so, like, to your point, like, if you're outside and you just happen to see, like, and there's a bunch of people walking by and there's a couple in it, and, you know, they can't
think with
sue
paparazzi
you.
That would be a huge issue, like, because if you're shooting an actress or an actor and you just shoot them out on the street and then you sell it and it goes into a magazine,
and the magazine publishes it for money. Well, I mean, and that's why magazines get sued all the time, right? Because invasion of privacy. But then on the flip side of that, they are public figures.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you know, so they're, I think it's the age-old debate, you know, like, if you're going to be a celebrity, I mean, a lot of actors don't want to be celebrities, right?
Yeah.
But they fall into it because, like the Kardashians, I hate bringing this example up or even bringing them into conversation, but they run their fame like a business.
Yeah.
You know, there's a whole side of the industry where they notify the photographers, the paparazzi, saying, I'm going to be here leaving this restaurant at such and such time, or like their agent does, so that they just happen to find them, you know, walking out of a restaurant. I was at, I was around the Beverly Center a few years ago having brunch with one of my closest friends at an Italian place in the middle of the week, totally dead. We were the only, like, two people there, and maybe like And then all of a sudden, Jessica Alba comes in with her family. She's pregnant to have lunch as well. Again, middle of the week, no one else is there. Like, nobody should know we're there. It's
Right.
who cares? We walk outside after finishing lunch, and there I kid you not, there is a wall of paparazzi not 20 feet away from the door, waiting. They took some shots of us because they were ready, to
Right.
get
Yeah.
some photos. But I'm like, that's not an accident. There's absolutely no way. Like, I know
Yeah.
that they follow them from house to house, but come on now.
Yeah. I would not want that in any kind of way. Not even
No,
close.
no.
I think if I
I wouldn't.
did want to be an actor, then
Uh-huh.
I'd want to be that character actor that you see, but you don't really recognize when you see them out. I
Yep.
think that, but you work constantly and you're making millions a year, but nobody really knows who you are. That's the
Yeah.
one I'd want to be.
Yeah. Or you're the, even if people recognize you, no one's gonna bother you,
Right.
because you're just one of those. You've basically, I don't know, how much cursing are you allowing on this
As much
podcast?
as much as you want.
Great.
I don't give a shit.
But basically you've got like fuck you or fuck off on your forehead, right? And like
Yeah.
you give off that energy, like, don't take a fucking picture of me. Don't look at me. There are definitely some celebrities like Giovanni Ribisi. I was at a restaurant bar and he was there grabbing a drink with his then wife, I believe, Agnes Dane. Um, and I mean, I wasn't going to take his picture. I didn't give
Right.
a fuck. I mean, like, I know this sounds really cliche, but like living in LA, you just get used to it. You see people, they're trying to live their life. Like, let's just let them have a drink at the freaking bar. But, like I felt that energy and I just like, even though he doesn't get snapped up in shot in like magazines or paparazzi shots, I think there's nothing worse than like not being able to have a carefree going to like a bar with a friend
Yeah. I think they don't,
outside of COVID.
from what I've seen and heard and experienced a little bit, it's like I think if you want these people come over, oh my God, I love you, I love you, I love this. They hear that from everybody. They don't
Yeah.
care. You're just annoying them at this point. I had a friend of mine he was in Florida working and he stopped into a bar to grab a drink and he saw this dude in this little hat, looked like he was this English guy. He was sitting at the bar having a drink, talking to another guy. And he turned and he looked and he was like, that's the dude from AC/DC, so he was like, what is the singer from AC/DC? So he's sitting there, he's like, eventually he's like, well, I'm just going to stay over here. I'm not going to go over there and to bother him. He said the guy got up and left. The friend did. And so my friend turned and looked at him and was like, hey man, don't interrupt you. Just want to say, I don't even remember what he said. But he didn't bring up anything about music. And he said they ended up sitting there talking for about half an hour, just about random stuff. And he said the dude was very cool. He said the whole time he had that Leonard Skinner song running through his head. It's like, don't ask me about my business. If you want to talk about fishing, that'd be fine, or whatever the lyrics
Yeah.
are. He said, so
Yeah.
that's all I did. He said, I just, we're talking about other stuff. I didn't want to go in there. And he said he was very cool. And I've noticed that I've met a couple of other, celebrities like that, and I don't ever go like, I love you this and this and this. And they seem pretty cool where you can see when somebody else comes up and talks to them, you kind of see this thing on their face where it's a little bit, yeah, okay, I know, I
Yeah.
got it. And they're
Yeah.
being nice. And I think if you're not paying attention, you don't see it. Most of the people, I think, are trying to be nice about it. But yeah, it's just not, I can't, I just wouldn't want to be that way. I just wouldn't want to be somebody that everybody recognizes and bothers like that.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine the sense of relief that guy, like a celebrity, would feel if all you do is just ask them to pass the salt and you're like,
Yeah.
excuse me. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
Can you pass the salt? And they're like, oh,
Oh, yeah. Thank you,
sure.
God.
Yeah, no problem. Take the fucking salt.
Yeah.
Anytime. Do you want the pepper too?
I think and then I think you have some people, and I don't know this for a fact, but I would assume that like maybe the Kardashians, or if you did that, like, hey, and you're like, can you pass the salt? They'd be like, yeah, but don't you know who I am?
You're right,
You don't
right.
want to say something else. You don't want an autograph or something. But
But that's noticeable, right? There are celebrities. I know, so silly we're getting into celebrity talk, but there I have been in a cafe before where there was a celebrity, and she was more like a famous daughter, you know,
yeah,
and she just and I go into that cafe all the time. It's just one of those like hole in the wall places that barely anybody goes to. You only go in there because like you work at an office nearby.
right.
Anyway, she just happened to be there one night, and I was dropping by to get some coffee, and she just kept looking over at me, and I'm like, do you think I'm somebody? Like, I was just like, why are you like looking at me? Like, do you expect me to come up to you and be like, oh my God, are you so and so? Like, who
Maybe you should have asked her if she
cares?
wanted your autograph.
Right? I should have. I should have. I just been like, do you want me to sign something for you? A coaster? A paper cup? Like, it's just so funny. Actually, do you mind if I run to the restroom real quick?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'll be
Not a
right back.
problem.
So you have been staying busy during this COVID thing.
I'm trying, you know, otherwise I'm going to lose my mind. I have been working lately, so that was good. But I went 4.5
Yeah.
months without shooting.
Well, yeah, because I don't think anybody knew how to treat social distancing at all. You know, the insurance policies around shooting, like people have just now figured out how to like, I think, work out the legalese.
Yeah. I think a little of that's a little overblown too, because how are you going to prove that you got COVID? And every set I've been on, we've done everything possible to make sure that nobody gets it. And so
Yeah.
far, I had one shoot where we found out a week later that one of the models on the first day of a 3-day shoot ended up having it, but
Hmm.
we had enough protocols in place that nobody got it.
That's great.
That was good. But how could you come back and prove that unless you literally never left your house, came to the set, shot, went back home, and didn't leave your house, and then got it? There's no other way to, I don't know how you could prove that they got it from being on your set.
Yeah. Um,
I've heard of lawyers going, okay, you can only shoot with, you can't fly anybody in, which I understand that it's a little more dangerous to fly somebody in, but they have to be local and they really need to be the same family, or you can only shoot out, bring in people from these couple of states or whatever it is. But at the same time, how are you going to prove that, they didn't get it from someplace else? I don't think I haven't heard of anybody suing anybody yet because they came down with it.
yeah. Well, yeah, nobody wants to take responsibility because now, what is it? The healthcare companies or the insurance companies are treating it as a pre-existing condition, which is bonkers.
Seriously?
Yeah.
So if you come down with COVID, they say it's pre-existing condition.
Yeah.
How the hell is that even possible?
I don't know. I do not know. I don't know enough. And I haven't spoken to the lawyers enough. And you know what, to be honest with you, I don't even know that most lawyers know everything there,
Yeah.
all the inner workings.
Are you
I,
guys shooting at all?
we are. And I don't know. I mean, I know that we're just jumping through hoops, right? When it first happened, remote shooting was like a serious thing, right?
Yeah.
So all of the broadcast work that we were doing was all remote, shipping to the point, like sometimes it was an option, right? Like what a lot of production houses have been doing that I've talked to, they'll either work with the cinematographer or director and their family.
Right.
So a lot of directors actually ended up putting, I feel like their own families into their commercials. Great. Then you have the option to send the equipment to the actor's house so they can set it up, and then they shoot
Oh
themselves, and
yeah.
virtually, like through Zoom or whatever, direct them on how to do it, right? So it's just like, recording voiceover from a remote location. You just tap in,
Right.
and then or I feel like there are some companies out there, and I don't remember if it was Dove or I don't remember what company it was. Maybe it was Maybelline, but they shot the entire commercial by getting the footage from the actors' cell phones.
Really?
hmm And so for example, like with I think one of the Geico ads, the DJ Khaled Geico ad that we just did, obviously that was shot in multiple locations. That wasn't, but it was really cool how they seamlessly tied it together through angles and
Oh, the one we
color
saw in the
treatment.
brush in circles.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That
yeah.
was shot in two different locations and two different times, and completely unrelated spaces.
Well, it looks, it's, yeah, like you said, it's seamless. It looks like it's shot all in the same place.
Right, exactly. And I think that's really cool that, we live in a time and space where like digitally we can pull that off and not let productivity kind of dip, even
Yeah.
though it is harder. So,
Do you think
yeah.
it, because somebody was telling me that they were able to grab screenshots while they're doing this kind of remote thing and drop it into layouts and show the client, where before all this hit, that wasn't really a possibility without really bugging the hell out of the digital tech as he's shooting and slowing up production. But now, because they're getting a live feed, they could do a screenshot, cut it out, drop it into a layout.
Yeah.
You guys do anything like that?
I don't know. I don't work on content. I don't work on broadcast as much as I do on digital,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the methods that we do. If there's anything that I've learned about advertising or just people and society since COVID happened, it's really afforded us, like, maybe 10, 20 years into the future by forcing people to get online
Oh yeah.
to stay connected, which, a lot of people were on the slow track for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess it's probably a good thing. I still have one client. It's a small client, and it was the Memphis client, and she still wants everything delivered on a DVD.
Oh
You know,
God.
and I tell her, it's like, I can, give it to you to download, and you can just download it straight onto the computer, and you don't have to put in the DVD and do it. She goes, I'm old school. It literally took me 5 years to talk her into going from Chromes to digital. After every other client I had was shooting digital, she was still another year or two after that before she finally agreed to do it. So,
Well, was she paying for it?
oh yeah, she was paying for it.
Because I mean, it is a little bit cheaper to not,
She, I think
processing
she
time.
was just so used to it that, I don't think she likes change very much.
Yeah, I know it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. But do you shoot anything for Martin, for an agency?
I did.
Yeah.
But it was more. I ended up shooting. We our client, Donate Life. I currently don't know what the status is, but they're a pro bono client because it's a
Right.
nonprofit.
Right.
We developed a project for them called 83 Futures, which was the point of it was to basically make organ donation hip, and it worked, right?
All right.
And it was super cool. These we basically created a fashion label line, which is called 83 Features, and the only way that you could buy these articles of clothing or what have you, designed by these by artists, and they were one of a kind pieces, sort of, um, is by signing up to the National Registry to donate your organs should
Yeah.
should the situation arise that you present, happens. And so we had a bunch of clothing that was made, and we needed some promo shots. I mean, this is all pro bono, so if there's anything that I know well to do is work on a budget or no budget. Fortunately enough, one of our art directors, Ashley Bozeman, she is absolutely stunning, and she actually has modeling experience,
Oh,
and she's
that's
got a
nice.
great look. Yeah, super fortunate. So in some of the coldest months in Richmond, and believe me, whoever listens to this, it happens. It does happen. It does get really cold. But like, I had her in some t-shirts, and this poor thing, like, out in the cold. I'm wearing a sweater. She's not. She's wearing this little t-shirt and like pants, and she looks really cool. We got some really great shots, but I was basically asked to like take some shots for a catalog, basically. But it wasn't a catalog. It was more for like promo material,
Right.
like video um, and just basically for the website. And it got submitted to the One Club for Creativity. All of the materials, all of the work that we did for 83 Features as a whole, as a team, got submitted to the One Club for Creativity. And I believe, let me make sure what I say the right thing. We got an award, and we got the Silver Cube.
Man, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we got the Silver Cube at the ADC annual awards, and that was really fulfilling because it was just really fulfilling because I've never won an award or
Yeah.
bit like it wasn't an award specifically for photography, but I was the photographer listed, on the
Yeah.
project, so that was really cool.
It make
And
you
getting a
consider going
chance to
back to being a
contribute.
photographer?
I mean, yeah, I still
And
consider
like
myself a
quitting
photographer.
your job and just going to shoot.
Heck no. I've got bills to pay. Way too many bills to pay. And I just don't, like, from personal experience, like it takes a lot of work to curate the relationships that you have to continue working. It's not
Oh,
easy.
yeah.
I have an immense amount of respect for people like yourself that like can do it as a profession. It's not easy, and it's just, it takes a lot of patience and a lot of persistence and a lot of talent, obviously.
Well, anytime I start thinking that it's a little much, I start thinking about the fact that I could be working at the bank wearing a suit and tie, you know, in some cubicle and talking to somebody about their finances. So I would rather be shooting than having to do that. So it's
Yeah.
all worth it. What tell me about, like, what's a favorite project you've done since you got there? Or not even since you got there, just in general, since you've been LA, Detroit, New York, Martin, Richmond.
That's hard to say. Um, I definitely loved working on the 83 Features project. As small as it was, it ended up having ended up having legs. And that's the thing, like sometimes you just don't know. Um,
Well, I think sometimes those can be the most fulfilling too. Is those
it
ones that
really
they don't
was.
really have the big budgets, they have the smaller budgets, but you get to do. I found that sometimes with the smaller budgets, you get to be a little more creative occasionally, or especially if it's something a little like that,
Mm-hmm.
that you don't have to stick to exact parameters sometimes. So
Yeah.
it makes it a little more interesting. I guess it all depends on the client.
Yeah. Um,
Time.
one of the I would there's a couple cool things that I've done in my lifetime, but one of them was outside of the Martin agency, doing I was one with a team my team and my former business partners, we exhibited at Art Basel Miami Beach in 2014
Oh, wow.
at Scope Art Show, and that was super cool. We helped also with the Queen of the Night pop-up at also during Art Basel 2014. We worked with a producer that had all these amazing relationships with the Elizabeth Sackler Museum in Brooklyn, New York, and I think it's called the Center of Feminist Art. The name escapes me at the moment just because my brain's fried, but um, it was that was really cool because like it was just so high. It was so high profile, but it was also really cool to work with so many artists and see self-expression come alive in so many different ways, and to be part of it. That was just beyond like as cool as it is, you know, as much as like on the outside looking in, you're like looking at someone's life and you're thinking, wow, they're next to so and so and so and so. But
Right.
honestly, like actually being there on the ground hours before, I don't enjoy event production just because it's just so stressful. It's so stressful. But seeing the production and seeing the process of how an artist puts together their artwork is so incredibly exciting to me and interesting because you're what because you always see the end product and you never see what goes into it beforehand, the prep work and all the other stuff. And to see it come together and come to life is just so incredible. Like I sound like a broken record right now, but it's true. Like
Yeah, I can
I don't
see that.
know.
It's gonna be very cool to be there and experience all that and watch it happen.
Yeah, like I mean, imagine being in a room with Van Gogh and seeing him pick up the brush on an empty canvas, and you're like, oh my God, what's gonna happen next?
Yeah, that would be
He's gonna draw a
amazing.
line.
Yeah.
uh,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
other project is the Design Festival in Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you would appreciate this. The scene in Detroit is also very like dynamic and artistic. Um, very similar, I would like to Berlin. And that stuff is also nonprofit. I worked at a nonprofit, and the design festival is all like through sponsorships. It all comes alive working with individual artists. So again, to your point, with really small budgets, like
Right.
really incredible things happen when people come together and make things happen. So
That's
yeah,
very cool.
yeah,
All right, I got two more questions for you, and then I'll let you go.
cool.
Um, what is a normal day like for you just at work, or semi-normal, somewhat normal? Basically, what are your main responsibilities on a day-to-day kind of basis?
Okay. As a producer, my day involves talking to people, checking schedules, tracking budgets and, you know, spend, and making sure that I feel like a lot of times an operator, like, you know, those old school operators that connected the
Oh,
wires
yeah,
on a
yeah.
on a board. I feel like that person in today's age, that I am constantly connecting people together. And half the time, I'm just putting two people to talk to each other. So as a producer, and my role right now is dual. Actually, I'm a design studio manager, so I work and oversee a number of designers on the production side. But I also produce, so I'm doing both roles at the same time. So my job is I'm talking to designers all day. I'm talking to probably the entire agency all day,
Oh, wow.
um, at whatever capacity to make sure that these projects are done on time.
Do you get to travel any?
I have actually,
Yeah.
but not
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah, not lately. Not lately
But
for
my
sure.
last trip was to Chicago, and I was out there for when we had Discover as a client. We had a shoot out there, and yeah, I got to go and I got to help out, and that was really great.
That's
I
pretty
loved it.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
like
yeah,
traveling when they pay for it. If I can build in at least a half a day or a day to hang out and do something, if I'm going someplace cool.
yeah,
Because I've had
yeah.
so many where I think we were in Miami. I remember my wife went with me on one trip, and it was South Beach for 3 days, down to the Keys for a day or two, and then back to South Beach for another day. My wife said, "Oh, I'll come with you on that trip. I'll help out, whatever." So, because she's really good at watching for details and all kinds of stuff. Day, I think the first day we finished down in the Keys, she was like, "I'm not doing this again. I'm not," because we literally, it was get up, for sunrise, go shoot till sunset, change, take a shower, the whole deal, eat with everybody, go back to the room, pass out, get up and do it all over again. She goes, "This is not what I signed up for."
Well, that's the thing. When people are like, "Oh, do you travel for work?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're, when I went to Chicago, people are like, "Oh, it looked like so much fun." I was like, "Yeah." And then, we also had, crazy hours because there's a lot of work in between, and we had to squeeze in, an ounce of fun here and there where we
Right.
could, and we did, obviously, because you have to live in the moment. But yeah, of course, it's not a vacation.
No.
We're working.
Yeah, I think probably my favorite one was at a shoot in Cabo. And
Wow.
we had a day of shooting, then another half a day. And we finished, because we started before sunrise, we finished by 10 a.m. And so
Wow.
then we just all, maybe 9:30. So we went, ate breakfast, changed clothes, whatever, and then went into Cabo and just hung out in Cabo and had lunch and all that kind of stuff. And that was a cool trip because we just got to hang out for the rest of the day and then leave sometime the next morning, I think we took off. So that was cool. So
That's
after
awesome.
that, I'm like, all right, I need to start. Anytime I go someplace cool now, I try and build in a little extra time. Maybe I get there, maybe I'll fly in half a day early, something like that, and
Yeah.
try and have a little bit of time to hang out. All right. So last one. What's the
Shoot.
strangest thing that has happened to you since you've gotten into this business?
Jeez Louise. I need a second. I need a second.
Take your time.
I mean, the reason I'm like struggling right now because I just feel like there's nothing that stands out particularly. I think the strangest thing that I would say is noticing how out of it some people are in the industry. And I constantly, I'm not kidding you, maybe on a daily basis or every other day, wonder to myself, I'm like, how did you end up here? And I'm not saying that I work with idiots. I don't. I work with really intelligent people. But some of the questions that I get asked sometimes make me, and I've asked my fair share of dumb questions. Because sometimes you just get really tired, and maybe that's what these people go through. But there's sometimes where, I've read an email from someone and I'm like, and they're asking this really general question or this very specific question, and they basically answer themselves in their own email. Maybe they just needed to write it out. Um,
So do you respond, read your email, and you'll have your answer?
no, I think that's passive aggressive. No,
That's good.
um, that's not my job to point out them being stupid. But maybe sometimes I like to treat it as I'm not going to respond because what if I'm missing something?
Right.
What if I missed a conversation or whatever? But 8 times out of 10, like there's definitely times where I'm wrong, but there are times where I'm like, you just answered your own question, but I'm just going to let that question hang in the air and maybe somebody else will answer it for you.
Well, that's smart.
So,
That's kind of
yeah,
like I tell my girls, like, before you bitch somebody out for something, you need
yeah,
to be 99% sure that you didn't miss something, you didn't screw up.
yep.
And because the last thing you want is to be in the middle of bitching them out, and then they go, look, and then you go, oh, sorry.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being direct, right?
No,
I,
I agree.
I, I hope that you empower your girls to be direct,
Oh,
because I don't think
absolutely.
people are direct enough
And
on
my
this world.
oldest one definitely is. She had an issue with my brother's stepson cut her off of Snapchat. And right after she had told my brother and his wife that she had seen some disturbing stuff and she was worried about him. And so when she saw that she had been cut off, she went to my brother and his wife and said, "Did you tell them that I told you?" And they're like, "No, we just said we had heard from somebody, but we didn't tell them who it was." And so she thought about it and thought about it. And she goes, mm-mm. So she went, I had sent her to our house, to my brother's house to pick up some stuff because we were moving and I needed her to go get
Yeah.
some stuff. When she got there, she confronted him and his wife and was like, "I know you told him. And
Yeah.
I don't appreciate it." And my brother was like, I believe my brother. And she did too. She was like, "I don't think, Jeff told him," but she said, "I guarantee you his wife did." And, but so we're definitely trying to get them. I'm like, I don't have any problem with them being direct and all that. And I want them to be. I just don't want them to be one of these things where they just think they know what the problem is or what happened, and it's not
Yeah.
really, and they go and just rip into somebody and find out they were completely wrong. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want them to be these kind of people who let people run over them just because they're
Yeah.
girls or just because they won't speak up or whatever.
Yeah.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
All right, I
That's
lied. I do
awesome.
have one more question.
Okay, please.
What's the Billy exclamation point on the
Oh my
shirt?
God. I get so many questions about this shirt. It's hilarious. Um, I love the name. I just think it's such a fun name. And, if I was born in America and I was like I was, purebred, born American with a German, Scotch, Irish background or whatever, I wish that, my nickname would be Billy, but it's not. No, so there's a famous YouTuber. His name's Casey Neistat, and he's a filmmaker. I've been following him for years. I love I loved I love his style, and it's evolved, God, so much. Like, he's become a mini celebrity. He was in this Netflix movie with that just came out called Power something
Oh yeah,
on
yeah, I saw
Netflix.
it. I haven't watched it yet, but I saw.
Yeah. He had like a small role, but I was like, look at you. Like, he started, it's not like he wasn't a big deal before, but like he's really like skyrocketed into, celebrity status. But um it was just so cool to see. But anyways, so Casey is married to a jewelry maker. And why can I not remember? I'm such a jerk right now. Like, just Candace. What am I saying? Candace is his wife. And she has been a jeweler for a very long time. She's had two businesses. One is like a more high-end, fine jewelry line. And then she started a fun line, still like high-end, but more accessible, at a more accessible price point, giving her like much more, I think, flexibility with her creativity. And she called it Billy.
uh,
And I'm just a girl that loves t-shirts, and I saw it and I was like, that looks like a really well-made t-shirt. I still don't have any of her jewelry. Definitely want it.
but at least you have the
But
T-shirt.
yeah, I mean, well, the thing is, when I bought, I could definitely afford her jewelry now, but I remember when I first bought it, it was what I could buy, and I've loved it ever since. I wear it all the time, and I've had so many people comment on it.
Yeah, because I had no
It's
idea.
great.
So, okay, well that's cool. It's a
Yeah.
good story. At
It's
least
good
now I know
advertising.
what Billy is.
There you
Yeah,
go. Need some jewelry for your wife or your daughters. There you go.
yeah, I'll check it out. Where were you
Yeah.
born?
I was born in Baku, Azerbaijan.
Okay, how
Yeah.
old were you when you moved?
Um so I came to the United States when I was like 6, 7,
Yeah.
but we left Baku in 1989, 1990-ish. because there was a war that broke out. And so we moved to Russia, but we couldn't stay there either because really complicated story, but I'm trying to keep it short. My family is interracially mixed, basically. My mother's Russian, my dad's Azeri, my grandmother, his mother, is Armenian, and there's essentially the war that broke out was between the Azeris and the Armenians. So we are
Oh.
viewed as an interracially mixed family. So, you know, my mom is from a small town just outside of Moscow, and we moved there and stayed with my mom's family. But you know, racial tensions have, like, you know, always been a little bit high, but especially back then. It's much more chill now. It's not a big deal. But so we got sponsorship as political refugees, essentially, because we couldn't stay in Baku. We couldn't stay really in Russia. It was just far too complicated. And we were sponsored, and we moved out to Dallas, Texas, where I grew up, because we tried to stay within the European section of the world, because obviously our whole family line and everything is in that area. But like the UK, for example, wasn't accepting immigrants at that time, or refugees. So we ended up in Texas.
How'd you like Texas?
It was great.
Yeah.
It was really great, actually. I love Texas. It'll have a piece of my heart forever.
Where were you in Texas?
Dallas.
Okay. Yeah. I like Dallas.
Yeah. It's great. They're doing so many cool things in the downtown Dallas area. It's really awesome to see that city evolve.
Yeah, I've been there a couple of times, but yeah, I do like Dallas.
Good.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Anybody watching, listening, you guys like it, thumbs up it, subscribe to it, all that stuff. And we'll talk to you all soon. See ya.
Yeah, keep following. Bye.
Bye.